Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Shame on me getting on trying to do my social media and not getting done with it quick enough. So, good morning, everyone. Uh, Good morning. Welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I forgot what the hell I was talking about, what I was doing, so I apologize. Distractions. Let me start over. Welcome to the Viva Show. I am one of two fabulous co-hosts. I am Lori, the badass Buddha, coming to you from a beautiful southern Connecticut. We have been blessed with amazing weather for like a week now, and I am very, very grateful for it. We've had a lot of rain, but the temperatures have been very, very pleasant, and the rain has contributed to the greenest and most flowering I've seen it in a long time. It's truly, truly spectacular, I have to say. One day I was I was driving and there was buds, and then next thing I know, there's actually full leaves on the tree. So it's very cool. I always love the changes. So good morning, and welcome. And now my phenomenal host.
Hola, mi gente, aquí con la Margarita. Good morning, happy Tuesday. It's already June 7th. Time waits for no one, right? It's like when you're out and you're just walking, you don't even think of calendars or watches or clocks. And then now here, everything is done by that. So, yeah, time just keeps going. So, what are we doing between that is what matters, right? So, happy Tuesday. Welcome, Milagros Arlene Kelly. And let's have a great thing. But you know what? I'm putting my makeup on this morning and the crickets were singing so loudly. It was like a symphony of crickets. And I'm like, I love the sounds of crickets, but I really love them at night. Like, why are they singing to me so early in the morning? But yes, I think
Yes.
with with the blooming, we see nothing winter. Now they're blooming, and then with the time going by quickly, you know what? Let's take our power back. Let's start living our lives the way we're supposed to, with more smiles, with vibrant color, with just a forceful energy that's just gonna grasp everything that's beautiful and breathe it in. Life is too short. That's what I woke up with.
Okay. It's better than waking up with a rash or something like that,
But
right?
you know, because I just think that it's time is so fleeting, and I don't consider myself to be um getting older. I think it's just becoming more wiser and taking in everything that's for you and just utilizing every second of the day, whether it's just to smile, whether it's just to hug someone, whether it's to call someone and say, hey, you danced across my thoughts today. How are you? Taking
Love
the
it.
time to do those little things as opposed to what's on my agenda. What do I got to cross off my to do list? You know what? Let's do the not to do list and let's just be, because that's where we
Let's
really.
do the not to do list. Sometimes I do that a little too much.
And then we go and we call it bad names like procrastination and shit. It's like when
Well,
we are just being in our essence, we berate ourselves with being lazy or stagnant or procrastinating, not knowing that that is the healing process of during our day. We know that the sleeping is the base, the foundation of healing, but it also is during those little moments of the day that we steal back for ourselves. Bridget, great rising, my queen.
I know I always love when Bridget comes and says that. So it's nice to see her here. Um, Procrastination is a good friend of mine. Like, we've actually become quite chummy over the last few years. I've learned to work with procrastination. So procrastination is nice because sometimes it does remind me to be present and do something that's joyful to me, that or not joyful, because sometimes my work, some of the things that I do in my work are quite joyful, but it's those little, like, play hooky today, go visit the family today, like, you don't have to worry about that today. because we have an agreement, we have an agreement that like, I know my limitations, and I know when I can put something off. So we have a good relationship now.
And yeah, and I think it's just knowing and the wanting to do that. When when I say just wake up, get dressed, and show up, it doesn't mean to be busy. It just means be present. And pasito a pasito, and I can't wait for our guest to come on, because that's what it's saying. When you decide to take your life back, and you decide to go and do this phenomenal trek, you are just you're present in your pain and in your most blissful moments of listening to the birds sing to you, smelling mother nature at its fullest, and that's it. Your only responsibility is to get up and leave the albergue on time and walk until you cannot walk no more. And it might seem like at first it's unnerving, like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be doing something. And then it just becomes such a way that when you come back to reality, you feel the pressures of the world and you're like, oh my God, I lived like this, like forever. Like, I'm not going to do that right now. So again, procrastination, or what are you doing? You're not doing anything. I thought you're supposed to be writing. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm doing what the hell I am supposed to be doing in this moment, which is being for me, so that I can be better for the things I have to do,
And it's sometimes an excuse. I'm being what I need to be done right at this minute, and procrastination's going, yeah, I got you. You are just speaking my language. And meanwhile, the rest of the universe go, no, you got to do a little bit of work.
Well, when I'm writing, and this happened during this week, and I could not form two words together, forget a line, forget a paragraph, a sentence, I would sit down and I would watch something. And in that dialogue of that acting and whatever they were talking about, that inspired me. That like tapped on my thought process. And then I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. And then I would come back to write. And it's about removing yourself from where you're at, so that then you can come back to it with full attention. So like I said,
or at least, so I was thinking about this with regards to your journey on the Camino. Sometimes we take those journeys with the idea that things will be clearer, things will be, will be more grounded. And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes that's one piece of the journey. Like, that's the start. And if you come back from something like this and you realize that you're still not quite there, then that's the divine or the universe or whatever you want to say is speaking to you, saying more needs to be done, more work needs to be done. And that's the beauty of today's conversation. And we're excited to have our guest on this morning, because he, like Gladiator Guru, has walked the Camino, and he's done, a gazillion other things. And his story is so phenomenal. And it's about, how they always say, it's funny. I was thinking about this morning, not even connecting it to today's conversation, but they always say, it's not about the destiny. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And I thought about this as I was unloading the dishwasher, going, why can't it be about both? Like, why can't, I want the destination and the journey, because it's true. It's the reason they say it's not about the destination, because as you go on the journey, you may change your destination, because things may be laid out in a different way and you see things differently. Your awareness changes, your perception changes. I get that. So to me, it's like, let it be about both. Like, what are we going to learn about both? And if we happen to get to our destination from that journey, then great. And we know that's just one stop, along the way. So I know, because Gladiator Guru and I have talked, and this journey was different for her than it was the first time. And rightfully so. She was a different person then. She's a different person now. We both agree that our journeys are not, there's still some other journeying that has to be done this year for both of us. Like, I went to Costa Rica in the beginning of the year. Granted, nothing what Gladiator Guru was doing, but it still was very opening to me, and it was 9 days or 10 days, but it was still, now I'm feeling the urge to trek longer. I'm feeling the urge to go somewhere else and to follow that urge, because something's telling us, something's pushing us, there's something that we have to learn. And sometimes it is necessary to get out of our environment to do that. And sometimes not. Sometimes it could just be, I just need to get out of my immediate environment and go on a journey locally. Maybe it's, like Connecticut's such a small state, right? And it's funny when you think comparing it to like Texas or California. But you know how many areas of the state that I have never seen or discovered? And in the last couple of years, I drove in different parts that I'd never been in before. And it was very interesting because we travel so far to go to other places, but yet sometimes just going an hour from or 30 minutes from where we currently are, but in a place we've never been before, does or is part of the journey. And with that,
It is, and to each its own. I say that.
yeah,
Listen, I've always traveled, and I'll take as painful and uncomfortable and grueling as the Camino de Santiago is. I'll take that over my trip to Hong Kong, Thailand, and Bali, to all the trips I've taken to Puerto Rico. I hate traveling in domestic stuff, but you know, when you do go, when you're walking it, and even when you're chilling in Santiago, you feel different, but you can't pinpoint it. Then you come home, and then sort of a nostalgia and melancholia sets in, and you're like, "What is this?" And then you see things clearly. And my first trip was a whole different thing, but you come back and you see things, and it breaks you down only to build you back up into the person you're supposed to be. People kept saying you're on vacation. It wasn't a Disney trip or a package holiday, where everything is fun and you don't learn anything. This is something where you struggle and you grow, and your body and everything comes into play. And you never think of coming home, no matter how swollen your feet are or how much pain you're in. You never think about coming home. And what it is because you know that there's a lesson that seeps in through the cracks. And then if you are willing, you get it. And then you better yourself. And always saying, like right now, I was on the phone last night and I was like, I don't know, am I going back in April? Am I going back in May? But I'm doing the Camino Frances again. Because maybe I'm a glutton for pain, but whatever it is, it's called, when the Camino calls, you go. But I just think it's because you learn and you never stop learning. And you're right. You can go here. You can go to Niagara Falls and come back a different person. It's what are you having in here? What is that need that you have, that hunger that you need to step away from your you,
yes,
and feed it.
Because you
and
have
then come back well nourished and more accepting of the things that you need to better, things you need to let go of, and things you just need to tweak a bit in your favor. Yes. Because every day until our last breath, it is a journey. There are changes to be made. We need to become better than who we were yesterday. That is our only competition.
That's correct.
And then, you know what? And then we become who we are. But be comfortable enough with yourself. And don't give a shit about who thinks you should be this, or you should say that, or you should wear this. Just be who you are. And then guess what? There's the mending of the spirit happens when you say it's going to happen. When God says, okay, let's do this. And not what anybody else says or whoever else doesn't feel like you need to change anymore. You need to grow. So let's do our mantra and
let's so we'll set the intention and we'll do the mantra. So the intention for today, as always, is to be intentional and
live in gratitude.
That's right. Set your intention, whatever that may be today. So be intentional today with whatever you do throughout your day and go with gratitude. So get ready for the mantra. Say it loud, say it proud. Here we go. So we get our guest on. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I am beyond authentic.
And I keep it as real as I am.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me get to everything's a little change here. Okay, so I have to put my glasses on. So our fabulous guest today, and bless him, another West Coaster getting on super duper early and always looking more awake than I and Gladiator Guru. So let's see. He is a writer. Roger Williams is a writer, podcaster, adventurer, and head crosser offer of his bucket list. After more than 30 years of working in the youth development and teaching field, a year in quarantine, and 2 heart attacks, Roger embarked on an adult gap year to prioritize a life in which he is known not by his professional work, but by the way he lives his life and the people he has grown relationships with. He recently completed a 3-month trip around the world to cross items off his bucket list and inspiring others to do the same. So here he is, Roger Williams. There he is. You have to unmute yourself, my dear.
So sorry. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Morning.
So glad to be here.
Go ahead, Gladiator Guru. Roger, you take it away. I will post his info and I will sit and listen to your So Roger, go ahead and talk about where you have been and why and what.
So I guess you're speaking of the overall journey that I've been on in life in the last 2 years.
Whatever you want to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I like you said, I was in quarantine like everybody else, and experienced a heart attack in December of 2020, and just started looking at my life and trying to figure out where I found my self-worth. I think that was the biggest issue that I was facing was, for 30 plus years, I was this teacher, I was this youth worker, and so many people in our society, it's like, oh, that must be so rewarding. That must be so rewarding. And although it also was really hard and really difficult and very hard to separate it from my life and my family and those things. And I just decided that I wanted to be known for more than that, that how I sold my labor and who I sold it to wasn't necessarily who I was as a person. And so I decided after a couple months that I was going to be known for the things that I crossed off my bucket list. And so I went on all of my social media accounts and changed my job to head crosser off on my bucket list, mostly just to see if anybody would notice, but really to set that intention of saying, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to be about. And I'd already kind of decided to go on the Camino. But it became more important because it was at the top of my bucket list of things that I wanted to do and to accomplish. And so in August of 2021, I took off to Spain through Saint Jean Pied de Port, France, and started my trek about 32 days across northern Spain. And it was a great thing to do. And there's lots of stuff we can talk about it, I'm sure. Plenty to talk about.
Before we get into that, and then you guys go at it, especially comparing notes.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like for your family and friends when you made that declaration? Like, this is what I'm doing, and what'd you get? Did you get resistance, support, a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little resistance, mostly support. I think, because of the health conditions, I think that's what people were most concerned about. The Camino had been, as Gladiator said, calling for quite some time, and probably about 10 or 11 years before I actually went. So, and I was always excited and told everybody about it and saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. So I think that nobody was surprised that this was going to be a thing. I think that there was concern because of my health. I think there was concern because of COVID. There were lots of things that I think folks were like, "Oh, is this the right time?" But I don't think anybody questioned that me going on the Camino was the thing that needed to happen, especially at that time.
Okay, great.
And you decided to do the journey solo?
Actually, I did. Well, I don't. It's a hard question to answer because I don't think you ever you can't really do the Camino solo. You can start by yourself, but I think, in a matter of just a couple of days, you will not be doing the Camino, no matter who you are, by yourself. It's nearly impossible, and even inside the context of COVID, where probably it was half the amount of people that were, or less, that were normally on the trail at that time, there were still tons of people, and there were still lots of people to engage with. I did start by myself. My partner, she joined me with 5 days left, so she finished the last 117 kilometers, whatever it is. Yeah, from Sardia. And so we had that in place. And it worked out really well for us. That was a good thing, because she spent about 2.5 weeks before that solo traveling through Spain. She went to Sevilla and Barcelona and Madrid, and she was out by herself doing her own adventure. And then, as I was, and then we got together in Sevilla, and we finished together. So it worked. It was very, very good for us, both of us, to be able to do that.
You mentioned something earlier. I met this guy. He was from Madrid. He was doing the Camino Portuguese too. And he just stopped up where my cousin and I were eating. So we started talking, and he was talking about he retired, and then, but he said something you said, like, if I'm going to sell myself, because he said they bought me out of the phone company after 30 plus years. And then I said, I sold myself too. I took the offer from the phone company here in the States. And he says, what people fail to realize is that every time we get up and go to work for somebody, we are selling ourselves. We are putting ourselves up for sale until we decide to do what our hearts tell us to do. And that, like, when you know something, but then when you hear it come from someone else, it's so profound. It's right. Like that instantly got sewn into the tapestry of my soul. I was like, like, I don't mind getting up selling myself from my own craft. That's right. Now in hindsight, you look at that. And so when you do decide, like, the badass Buddha works for herself, and it's exhausting as it is, and how busy she can be, she's still doing it for her. I'm still doing it for me. So you know what? I'll be the best person for sale because it's for me. So that was the best way to describe it. Thank you for bringing up that memory of that gorgeous man I met on the Camino.
Yeah, exactly. And you even in normal life, right, outside the Camino, when you meet new people, one of the general questions that's asked is, what do you do? And you answer that by how you sell your labor, typically, and who you sell it to.
Yeah.
And our value becomes part of those answers to that question.
True.
And so that's, for me, I didn't want to answer that question. I wanted it to be more about me, whether I owned my own business or not, or I worked for somebody else. That is just how I sell my labor and how I make money to survive and to take trips and do those kind of things. But for me, I wanted to say, this is who I am. I am a friend, and I'm a world traveler, and I have friends around the world, and I want to do no harm to people. And those are the things that are more valuable to me than saying I work for X company and I do this for them. I want to say I do these things for me. These are the things that I do for me. And there's nothing wrong with having a job. There's nothing wrong with selling your labor. It's just a matter of knowing what its value is. And a lot of that has to do with, we have to reclaim that for ourselves, what our value is. And for too long, institutions and corporations have been taking advantage of our, maybe you want to call it low self-esteem of what labor is,
and fear.
What our labor is worth. Definitely fear.
That's a whole other show.
Oh yeah, definitely a whole other show. But it is that issue of the fact that it's our labor and we get to sell it, and you can choose. I worked with young people for a real long time, and when we were talking about jobs and after college and those kind of things, I would say, it's as much about you interviewing that company or institution as it is them interviewing you.
Yeah.
And you can say no to a job just because it's the first offer or whatever it is. You can say no because it may not be the right fit. And So it's super important. It was super important for me to say, when I was walking the Camino, and the typical question was asked, "What do you do?" Well, like, where are you from? Where'd you start? The basic questions that people ask you. Where are you from? Where'd you start? And what do you do? Outside of this. And I just wanted to be able to say, I'm just out here crossing stuff off my bucket list. People are like, "Oh, you're retired?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not retired. I'm just that's who I am.
I'm living."
That's
I
right.
like that you put that you're taking a gap year, because in your bio, because you hear that so much with high school graduates taking the gap year. And it's so nice to hear it in the context of an adult to say, I'm taking a gap year. You know what? I'm going to take another one, and I'm going to take another one, and I'm
Let's
not
hope.
done yet.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Let's hope. And
Because you have to explain yourself. And Roger, you hit it on the nail. And I would get stumped even now. Because I wanted to. And they're like, "But what do you do?" So I'm like, "Well, what do I say I do? Because I do so much." And then when I say it, I'm like, "Damn, I do a lot. And how come I don't have 6 figures?" So then I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I need that letter frame. What am I supposed to say? So I'm like, I'm a traveling magician.
There you go.
That's what I am.
That's a much more interesting conversation to me than you work for Microsoft and nothing wrong with Microsoft, and you punch keys all day, and everybody has that potential, right? We have 45, 45 hours, 50 hours we sell ourselves, right, in labor, hopefully, and then you have another 45, 50 that that you sleep. And when you add those together, and then you have 165 hours in a week, you still have over 70, 80 hours that are yours, that you get to decide what those hours are. You get to decide what the boundaries are for that time frame, and it's yours. So what are you going to do with that, and why? And I hate work-life balance. I hate that phrase. I think it's the biggest lie ever. I think that it's absolutely a way to oppress people, because there is no way to balance 40 to 50 hours with 70 to 80. I don't care what, wild, scientist you are, that's, NASA technician, you can't balance those. They're not equal. They don't balance. And so we have to take on this work-life boundaries. Is what we should really be doing. Is we should say, we need work-life boundaries. And the time I give you stops at those 50 hours. Anything, or 40, whatever it is for you, that after that, it's my time, and it's not your time. And I'm not going to think about work. I'm not going to take text messages. I'm not going to, at one point in my last job, my boss was like, "I sent you an email. Did you get it?" And I'm like, "No, because I was out doing stuff."
I'm off the clock.
Well, no, well, it was like but at the same time, it was like I was with students and I was doing things, and I was, and he's like, "Well, didn't you get a notification on your phone?" And I'm like, "No, this is my phone. You don't pay for this phone, so I don't get notifications on my phone." That's a boundary, right? If you want to get me a phone, if you want to get me a phone, I will take the phone and I will, gladly respond to your emails. But this is my phone. So until you start paying the bill, no, I'm not going to be at your beck and call every single second of the day.
Yes.
But you know what I find is that people respect you more, even your employees. They hate it, but they respect your integrity more when you set that boundary with them. Some are just not going to, but I've met, and I used to teach life and employability skills. And that's one of the things I taught my students who never had worked before. It was a welfare reform back in 97, 98. And they were already frightened because they never had to deal with that. So we did many mock interviews, and I had them interview me. I would set certain things around me and had them look at it, and then later tell me what did they learn about me just by the things I had, and how important it is that your energy feels comfortable in that environment. Not about the paycheck, not about you have to get a job, not of this. Did you feel comfortable enough to spend 8 hours of your day there? And if not, and they hired you, decline. And that was against what I was supposed to teach. But if I'm going to teach something, I taught it the right way. Believe me, I got in trouble a whole bunch. If my former director is on here, Rena, this is what I did. And you know what? I have received emails from those welfare recipients years later where they have found their home. They purchased homes for rental, like welfare who?
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you do that, when you interview I don't care if it's like the coaches. With the way I speak to people, some people can be intimidated or they just don't like my loudness. So I tell them, make sure I'm the one you want to spend your money on,
Yeah.
because you might get your feelings hurt. But we're
There
going to
you
get
go.
to the core of your issue, because I'm not taking that on. Energy is everything, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we can't take on everybody else's thing, but that's smart. And how many people, my daughter instantly was working at home off hours, getting emails on the weekend, running out to the car to get her laptop, to get all this data put in and all this kind of stuff. And once all the data was put into this new system, guess what they did?
They got a new system.
They laid her off. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah. They
Yeah.
didn't need her anymore.
Working in between home. But so that's true. But the last time we spoke, when we interviewed for the show, right, Badass, you were somewhere in the world.
Oh, yes. I was in, believe Matera, Italy. Oh, no.
Yep.
I was in
You were in Italy. I know you were in Italy.
but I think I was in Trieste.
No, you were. You know what? You were in Matera or you just were, because that's when I said to you, "Oh my God, that's where my family's from," which is so unusual to hear somebody say they were in Matera. I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
Yes. Yeah. So I just got back about 3 weeks ago from a 3-month trip. I started in Costa Rica with my partner, crashing a wedding, and then I moved to Pamplona, Spain, and I was there for 2 weeks, visiting with some friends and doing some things. And then I moved to Trieste, Italy, for a month. Went to Milano, visited folks, and then was in Matera, Italy for another 4 weeks before I went to London for about a week to visit friends. So, about total 3 months traveling around. I think it was like 21 flights in 90 days.
But tell me, where did you stay?
I stayed now in Airbnbs.
Okay, not hostels. You didn't do hostels.
No.
I love me some hostels.
For the length of stay that I was staying, the hostels were a little bit out of the ballpark. I needed space. I also was attempting to write a book while I was gone, so I needed some space to be able to have my own stuff. Although I've just recently decided that I'm probably going to go back and do the Camino, so probably next year. So I do miss it like you. I love it. I absolutely don't have a problem with staying in albergues and hostels. But this trip, the whole purpose was for me, for the most part, to go out and attempt to write a book.
That's phenomenal. People don't understand, like the people who feel weighed down by responsibility. You know what? Going on the Camino, traveling, taking 21 flights, finding that comfort zone, that is a responsibility.
Oh, yeah. No, I was working.
People mistake it, right? We mistake what we need to do for ourselves as frivolity, as why don't you wait till this, or how much vacation time you have. And, I think that in order for us to be the best employee or the best boss, best entrepreneur, we need to take, half of that year needs to be spent on self, right? In order to do the best thing. Every time you come back from a Camino, it's like your spirit stood in Spain. It's like, what's going on? This reality sucks.
Yeah.
No one understands your story unless they've done the Camino. So you're trying to explain to them the beauty, just the pure essence of it. And they're looking at you like you're talking about that you went to like Hogwarts and was flying around on a broomstick. Like, it's unbelievable. That could not happen. And so you were on vacation. And so, I just stopped talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that's mine. And yes, my cousin and I, this was her first Camino, and she did phenomenal. Last night we were on the phone. She's going to Turkey in May, so we're figuring out. I don't really want to go when it's snowing, because that northern part of Spain snows in April. Now, I really don't want to go in June because it's hot, but we're gonna have to pick a date because I'm going, and I don't want to wait till it's fall.
Yeah. Yeah, just like you said, like I came home from my first Camino, and I went to work, and I was talking to one of my friends. I had boundaries, and they hadn't seen my Instagram because I don't give my Instagram out to people that I was working with. And so I had made a reel I think it was in the last week and a half, I made this Instagram reel of all the selfies. So it was just like a slideshow. It wasn't any big deal. It was just a slideshow of all the people that I've taken selfies with along the Camino. As kind of a thank you. And I showed it to her, and I've worked with this person for 4.5 years. We were pretty close. We were good work, mates. We were friends. And she looked at me when she was done watching it, and she said, "I've never seen you that happy." In 4.5 years, she had never seen me that happy. And although I was glad that my experience showed that in that space I was excited, I was kind of walked away from it really sad of saying, this person has never seen me that happy. There is something wrong with what's going on. I'm doing something wrong. I don't want anyone to ever not meet me at that place. And so that's when I decided to take the gap year. I was like, I've got, it's not that I need to find myself. I'm 52 years old. I know who I am. There's not much that's
we need to reconnect. We need to reconnect.
Yeah.
With that
Yeah.
inner. Yeah, and it
definitely
takes an outsider. But my cousin is on. She's telling me to go to Turkey with her. Then we fly to Spain. My experience with removing myself, experiencing a whole other world, and then coming back to my normal, is that the messages that the Camino still has for you comes from people in places that you would have never imagined.
Yeah, I think that part of the, there's all these things that people say you should do to prepare for your Camino, right? And it's, like you should start walking more, and you should get
I didn't do none of that shit.
Yeah, I know. And you need to.
But that wasn't on purpose. You just didn't get a chance to keep saying it. You go,
I didn't do it any time. I didn't do it the first one, but I walked 32 days. And I didn't do it this time. I'm like, I want to, but you know what? It's like second nature, right? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And it's like we got to go out and what are the best shoes and what's the equipment that I need and this, that, and the other thing. And the thing that people really need to prepare for, and I wasn't, was the mental aspect of it, because your Camino starts when you leave your door. It doesn't start in Saint Jean Pied de Port. It doesn't start in Lisbon. It starts in when you leave the house, and it doesn't finish at Santiago or Finisterre. It doesn't finish. Your Camino just keeps going. And I think it was difficult. It was just weird for me because my partner had, I'd been walking for 25 days, and my partner comes along, and she gets interjected into this thing that I'm doing. And one of the things that she said, well, as we were getting closer to Santiago, she was like, do you want to be alone when you walk in? Do you want to do that by yourself? Because you've taken this journey, and she said, I want to respect you. I want to respect your, what you've done. And if that's something you need, that's totally fine. I'm like, no, I've had my Camino. We're on our Camino, and we're going to walk into Santiago together. And I never felt this like overwhelming, like sense of either completion or sadness when I walked into Santiago and was there at the cathedral. Because for me, I just felt like it's still going. This is not the end of the journey. This is just a way stop. This is just a mile marker at some level, and I've never had that overwhelming sense of completion.
Oh my God! Thank you. I felt like I didn't appreciate it both times.
No,
I didn't cry. I'm looking at everybody around me crying, dropping to the floor. Yeah. My cousin Iris was the best photographer. They're taking pictures of everyone crying and laying on the floor. And I was like, oh, okay, we're here at the cathedral. And I was like, what's wrong with me? What's missing? So, and it was both Caminos. So you're telling me that, yeah. And I went to Finisterre, and I thought it was the ugliest city. I just loved before you get to Finisterre and when you're at the damn lighthouse. But that in-between thing, I was like, right over it.
And for me, like I had that moment, of excitement and stuff, but it was actually the next day, because we got in, and I had been walking with this group of young Italian university students, and I think at one point I jumped some stages to be able to meet up with my partner on time. And so I thought it was like 3 or 4 days ahead of them. And I get a text the following morning. It's like, yeah, we're about 3 hours out. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we went down to the the Compostela office where you get your certificate of completion. And we got those, and we walked back through the plaza there in front of the cathedral, and they were walking in. And that to me was like the absolutely
amazing, right?
You know, I was like crying. I was like seeing, you know, we were hugging them. You know, some people literally jumped into my arms, and it was just like, because I hadn't seen them probably about 15 days, and we had walked probably 15 days together. And that was like a moment of completion at some level, seeing them come in and their experience and their journey end and their excitement. And so it was just, and that's really why I did my Camino. You know, some people do the Camino for so many different reasons, and for me, it wasn't just a bucket list item. Again, it's that setting that intention, as you talked about at the beginning of the show, that my intention was to go and build relationships with people around the world and get out of my bubble. And so I wanted to, that's what I wanted to see happen. And so I went with an open mind and an open heart, and just said, whoever, you know, the universe puts in front of me, we're gonna see if there's connections and work it out. And I, you know, on this 3-month journey, I think I saw 18 pilgrims on that 3-month journey that I just took when I went around the world. And this is just such a gift, to be able to have people all around the world. And we live in a time, you know, where communication is super easy. You know, my best friend, you know, he was in the military back in the 90s after college, and he, you know, I would call him once a month, and it would cost me $60 to $100, you know, to talk to him for an hour. And now that conversation, you know, I can press a button. Yeah, well, it's not just what I can
whatever, it's free.
Yeah, it's
like
all. I don't think it's free, but it
costs
it costs
everything.
something.
Yes, but it's not $60 to $100 each
Yeah,
day.
No.
You said something that was pivotal when you came out of the Compostela office and you ran into people. That excitement, that's what you're like, this is what it's about. And you know, when that happened, I would every day, because we stood in Santiago for like 5-6 days as tourists after the Camino. And every morning we would leave our albergue, which was near the park, right? And, you know, and we would walk through, and every day, every morning we would get there, and I would sit there just to watch the pilgrims come in. And the 60 to 70-year-old bikers, you know, with their bikes coming in, and they're all like, so happy. And that's what made my Camino. That's what made me like, and we would sit there, and then before in the evening when they had the singers there, we would always stop there, and I would watch people. And then you run into the people, and then we would sit at a corner table at the entrance of the park from the Portuguese Camino, and we would see their mochilas, and we're like, yay, buen Camino, you did it. And the smiles on their face that we were not, now the natives were probably like, these freaking people, right? But we were like, yay, you did it. And my cousin Iris is loud as hell. And they're like, yay, buen Camino. And some of them just look like, wow. And I think, and that's what it's about, right? It's about being of service to humanity in the simplest form.
And connection.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
I think it was really profound, Roger, what you said. And I know from what Gladiator Gurus talked about when you said no one really does it by themselves, because you know, and the beauty of it is that this is life. Your journey is yours. And if you, whatever part of your journey on, if you want to be alone for that moment in time, you can be.
Oh yeah.
And you can always be with people. And so, because I think about it from the stories Gladiator Guru shared with me, with how she was the first time where she did go by herself. And then this time she went with her cousin, but she still met so many people along the line, even both times. And when you said it, I'm like, you know what? That's true. That is the beauty of the journey, is because you never know. People are put in front of you for a reason. And sometimes they're not great people, but there's a reason, because it is part of our journey and it's the information that we take in. And I think the beauty of the Camino or any other journey that an individual takes is being present, being in that moment and taking it in. And then after, at the end, sort of, not the end, doesn't have to be the end of it, like the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, digesting everything that came in and then deciding how to use it. Like, where does it fit into my life? What am I going to do with this information? Like some of the stories that Gladiator Guru and her cousin Editha shared, especially the people they met and the conversations that they had. I was more intrigued by that and how she felt while she was walking, as opposed to what were the sights like? Like what did you see? What was the view? Because the view is the view, but it's that information. And maybe the view is the information. You know, I'm a nature person. Like I get information from views, and I know Gladiator Guru does too. But I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that when we go about our journey, no matter where we're going, and yeah, maybe it is to Disney World when you said that before, Gladiator Guru. What I mean is that no matter what your journey is, be open, be present to the information that's coming in. And with regard to Disney World, the information I got was I never want to come back to this effing place because it's crowded and loud, and it's not where I want to be. It's not the experience I want my children to have.
Okay.
Yet there's people that swear by it. And again, that's their journey. So yeah, that works out fine.
Well, you know, I'd say it's sad that they don't know better. But look at Iris. She met a man named Kevin. He was homeless, and he gave her the best advice and the best message that had her uneasy for many years in her life. And Kevin was phenomenal. He was French, who spoke Spanish. He looked like Captain Jack Sparrow. And he was just like an amazing, and he had a dog who knew how to beg. And it was just that experience alone. And then he got candles from somewhere, like big candles, and we have them. He gifted us candles as we were leaving, all because 2 days prior we had extra, and we had it wrapped up, and we gave it to the homeless men by Postal Suso in La Rua. And so it's like you give a little, you get a lot.
Yeah, and
when you receive a lot, you share, and that's just the balance of life. It's the give and take of goodness. So
yeah, and then you have to be in a space where you're willing to accept that, right? And see it and receive it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. And without the expectation of I'm giving to receive and get back, right?
Yeah, I right after the tsunami in Thailand in 2005, I took a few young, college, high school students there with some adult friends of mine, and we were waiting at a train station, and I forget which town we were in, but we were waiting at a train station, and there was this mangy three-legged dog that was just absolutely like just begging and begging and begging and coming around, and one of the students was like, perturbed by the fact that this dog was trying to get some of the food and stuff and was kind of shooing him away and everything. And it was kind of acting annoying. And a couple minutes later, I looked over, and there was this Buddhist monk that was sitting at a bench, about 50 yards away, where the dog had just quietly just sat, just took a seated position, and the monk, handed it some food, and it went away. And the student was also watching, and I'm like, you just got schooled by a monk and a dog, It's just like if you're not open and aware of what's going on around you, you miss the lessons in life. And I think that's really what I tried to take away from the Camino. I had been talking to one of my former students. She was in college before I left for the Camino, and talking to her about it. And she's like, oh, I could never do that. I can never just go, and because not knowing anyone. And I said, the issue is that I don't, I'm going on this journey, but I don't know who I'm going. I'm not going alone, but I just don't know who I'm going on it with yet. And so that's, and she was like, oh, I never really thought of it that way. And that's really what the Camino, can provide, is that if you're open, I did Saint Jean Pied de Port to Roncesvalles, in one day. And when we pulled into Roncesvalles, I mean, it was on that people were communicating. Everybody was open. Everybody was smiling at each other. It's like, yeah, we got that first day down,
First day, yeah.
People were ready to, communicate, and dinner was awesome with new friends. And, it's not hard if you're open for it. Now, there was a woman that 4 or 5, she started in the same day that we reached Pamplona. She started She's from Italy, and she was like, you could just tell, like, she didn't want to talk to anybody, and she didn't want, and at one point, we were getting a friend of mine a taxi because he had hurt his leg, and she came, like, the first time she come over, to talk to anyone, that I realized that she was like, well, how much is that? And I'm not feeling well. And I'm like, well, you can join. It's no big deal. It's, you split the cost. No, 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 no. And the day later, I think we got to but she had never talked to anybody. And then a day later, we got to an albergue that had a pool. And she was sitting out by the pool with everybody. And she just like, she's like, hi, this is my name. And I'm like, I know your name. We met 2 days ago, and we had a great conversation. We went out to dinner. I saw her when I was in Italy. I mean, it's just takes a little bit of time for people to kind of like loosen up and get to the point where they can let people in. And it depends on your situation. Like, she had come through a bad patch in a relationship, and so she needed some space. But for me, it was, every morning I would kind of get up and do my own pace morning wise, and I would usually walk alone in the morning. But by the time lunch rolled around, I'd run into somebody, and that would be my partner for the rest of the day, and we would talk and hang out, and then dinner was totally communal. So I feel like I got the best of all the worlds.
That is beautiful.
Experience.
It is. Even when I went with my cousin, she walked behind me that I had to yell, Iris, just to make sure she was okay. I'll stop at every single cafe I come across in every village. I do. That's my, hey, I saw you earlier at talk time. But even the first Camino, I met two guys at the airport. One was from Tenerife and one was from Maine. One was his third, one was his first. And we were together for 18 days, but we never walked together. We just had dinner together every night. We chose where we were going to go the next day. Steve would make the reservations. And then in the morning, we would have our coffee and our sumo. And then, okay, see you later.
Yep.
And that's how it was. And even on this one, my cousin, it was her first, but she loves to be around people, so I let her be. But I didn't walk per se with anybody. I like to listen to nature. I like to listen to the songs of my heartbeat, and the feet touching those rocks and that dirt road. That's my harmony.
Yeah.
And so when I would see somebody, hola, if I just talk them to death at the other cafe, or I'm gonna run into them at the next. But the thing is that's my camino. Yeah. And at first, some people thought I was standoffish. I didn't give a shit. But then when they got to know me, they saw that I was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I don't doubt that for a second. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because, the common phrase in the Camino is it's your Camino and you do it any way you want to. There's always judgment in the world. You can't get away from that. There are people.
That was my word, Roger, this time. Discernment. Yeah. Because there is a lot of judgment.
Yeah, there's tons. There's not tons, but there are people that judge and say you gotta do it this way, you gotta do it that way. And the bottom line is you can do it any way you want to, and it will. I'm a firm believer that the Camino only magnifies what's already inside you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing magical about the Camino except it puts you in a position where you have to think introspectively as well as communally, and so whatever you get out of it was already there. It's just a matter of putting you through that lens that magnifies
it was this.
what was already there.
Yeah,
but it's there's some people that say it's magic. I just think it's a lens that magnifies what you already got going on.
Well, I believe in magic, and I say it did because it woke me the hell up. And my first one, it illuminated the woman I have become after 6 years of caregiving and my husband dying of ALS. And then it allowed me the time to introduce myself to the woman I have become through that journey.
Yeah, but like I said, it was already there, right? You're already the forging of that iron had already started taking place.
Oh my God! Did you read my chapter? I love blacksmithing. That's why I put the light here. It illuminated, and like shook up what needed to come forth. because of life. It gets weighed down with all the other stuff. And then you get forgotten because everything else has to be taken care of. And that's what the Camino provides.
Yeah.
Provides one-on-one time with yourself, whether you're ready or not.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn every muscle in your feet, damn it. You know, but, and like with anything in life, I think people over prepare.
Yes.
Let's talk about that real quick, because the Camino has to do with everyday living. People over prepare. They make this to-do list and then at the end of the day, if they didn't cross every freaking thing off that damn list, they feel like failures. They over prepare. I got to do this, but maybe I need this.
Or they just over prepare and never actually do it.
Yeah.
You know, or they do it. They do it according to a list or what someone else does, and then they fall short, and then they feel like they didn't do enough. So if you're beating yourself up for something that it's just. And the first Camino, I bought my hiking boots. I did that. I left them in Burgos.
That's still a pretty long time you had them, but yeah.
I left them in Burgos because they were just too heavy for my feet, and my feet were swollen because I refused to piss in the forest, so I didn't drink enough water that first time, right? So then in Burgos, I buy some waterproof Adidas sneakers and walk the rest of the way. It was some time between that year and when I left now, the sneakers and my King sandals went missing. So I'm waiting and I'm doing this. I had, life happened. I had a horrible car accident. I launched my coffee business. And then the only money I had was the money for my Camino, and I wasn't touching that shit. Right?
No doubt.
I went with my regular, not waterproof Nike sneakers and got not one blister. Now, the sneakers I threw out because they got wet, and once they got wet, they were stinking. And you know what? My wool socks, I took the most minimal stuff with me, and my soap, my Olive Bar soap that I use for everything, believe it or not, badass, the little piece was the last day I was in. The last day before I flew back to the States was this little piece of soap, and I was like, you see? We overthink and overprocess bullshit.
And overpack.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah, and overpack. That was my biggest mistake. I think, I bought a backpack that was too big. And in the United States, we just fill it up. We don't, if it's got space in it, we fill it.
Yeah, that was my cousin.
Stuff. Yeah, because it's about stuff. And that's one of the reasons. One of the reasons I want to do it again, because I'm like, I want to do it like really like minimalist, like take 2 t-shirts and that's it.
And one pair of pants. That's exactly what I said.
That's what Gladiator Guru did this whole time. Yep.
My cousin Iris filled every freaking pocket on her book bag, and I said, no more pockets.
I took a med kit. I took, I was like, I thought I was doing the AT or the PCT or the CDT. I thought I was doing this through hike. It didn't dawn on me that you pass a pharmacy every, 10 kilometers. So it's just like.
I bought my Vicks Vapor Rub.
Way overpacked.
Yeah. So anything you want to end this with, Roger? This has been a great conversation. Because we touched, like my cousin Chanel, we didn't get to read, but even my cousin Chanel said something up front. I don't know if you put it on, but she was saying how it's true, and that she also told her job that when they start paying her phone bill, that they'll start. So there was a lot of comments. Please go back. I can't even go up. Because of what we said earlier, and I guess when Badass Buddha said about the gap year, a lot of people, you know what, stop thinking and just do. If you're not hurting those around you, then make yourself happy and do something that's going to propel you forward in every decision that you make, because life is short. And you know what, be grateful. You know how many, I was telling Badass, I'm like, oh my God, telling my cousin, oh my God, how much more do we got to go? I can't walk anymore. And a couple, like 80 years old, was zooming by me like, oh, hell no. It's like I got that second burst of energy. I'm like, we're walking.
Yeah, you can't be a race.
But if that's what you needed, like when you feel you can't do no more, you got one more mile to that 28 kilometer that you chose to do that day. And then you see these energized elderly just walking. You're like, why am I complaining? It's
Yeah.
like a reminder to self, stop complaining. And I do the Camino because my husband was paralyzed with ALS. So I'm like, I have the ability to walk.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then,
I think that for me, it's the biggest thing is that, so many people will say, well, what is this? What is adult gap year? What is this? What does this mean? What is it you're doing? And I've narrowed it down to just be able to say, I'm only doing things this year that bring me joy. And if it doesn't bring me joy, then I'm not doing it. And that's not just work. That's not just trips or things. That's like, if going and visiting family is going to bring me joy, I'm not going to do it. I'm only doing things that bring me joy. And that's hard to do because sometimes you have to put stuff on the effort list, right? There's a bucket list and there's an effort list, and sometimes
I have a long bucket list.
Yeah. So it's I mean it's about being self-aware of the joy that you want to experience in the world, and you just have to do it. Because whether you're working or not working, whether you're on a gap year or not a gap year, you have to look at what your time you have around you and decide that I'm going to do things that bring me joy.
That is an excellent closing statement.
Yes.
Excellent. Do things that bring you joy.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what? That should be a post-it, or whatever the hell you want to call it, in every mirror and on every computer, and even just like at the back of our phones. Like, are you doing something to bring you joy right now?
Yeah, it should be the lens. Yeah, it should be the lens.
Okay,
well,
so
Roger, thank you so much. This was really wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for getting up at 5 a.m. We really,
really appreciate it. Are we doing it tomorrow? We can do it tomorrow if you want to.
No, but you and I have a date on your podcast, so I'm excited to talk about that. So thank you. Remember, do things that bring you joy. I'm gonna write that at the top of my thing today. I need to remind myself that. Go ahead, badass.
Well, so that's it for today. So today's Tuesday. We'll see you on Thursday with another fabulous guest who I think it's Elaine Starling. I think that's our guest. Isn't that terrible? I didn't cheat and look before. Always a good conversation with our guests.
It's a phenomenal guest regardless.
Right, exactly. So Roger, thank you so much. Keep in touch so we can follow you in your journey. We'll make sure that we and the tribe connect to your social media. And so thank you. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And from the Gladiator Guru, Miente, remember to breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste.